Now, you probably heard the expression, you are what you eat. Well, not on keto. There was a very interesting study done comparing the ketogenic diet, high fat, low carb, to the opposite diet, which is low fat, high carb. And they wanted to look and evaluate how much saturated fat was in the bloodstream after being on this diet. And of course, it's obvious that if you eat all this dietary fat, it's going to load up your arteries and probably spill off into your reserve. But that's actually not what happened. The group that had the lowest amount of fat and the highest carb had the highest amount of saturated fat floating through their bloodstream. So for those of you that are scared to do the ketogenic diet, thinking that it's going to fill up your arteries with fat, that's not what happens. Despite having the low carb, high fat group at 3 times as much dietary fat, it was the low fat, high carb group that should be most concerned. So the question is why? Well, carbs control where the fat goes. When your carbs are low, the body starts using those dietary fats as fuel. And if your carbs are high, your body's not going to be using the saturated fats. It's going to be using the carbohydrates as fuel. And then the excess fat is going to be stored in the fat cells. Not to mention the carbs being also converted to saturated fats in the bloodstream as well. That's called de novo lipogenesis. Carb into fat. So, is saturated fat that bad for you? It really depends on where your carbs are. If your carbs are too high, yes, saturated fats are unhealthy. But if you're on the ketogenic diet with low carb, the dietary fat goes to the front of the line as your fuel. Hey, before you go, if you're benefiting from any of my content, I would love to hear about your success story. Please share it in the link down below.